How's it going, my friends? It's Carpo here, coming at you from the Honda. I sometimes have some thoughts on my mind that I just want to share really quick, and this is one of those times. I was sitting in my office doing some work, and I actually still have my little science coat on that I use when I'm working. Um, Keeps the kratom off of my clothes because it can become a mess. I had this idea about language versus intention, and how much of course we know we're misunderstood, misrepresented all the time. Everyone has this, this poor me attitude sometime in life about how they're just not understood. And I think we all feel that. It doesn't matter how average or how eccentric you are. You'll be misunderstood in many times in your life. But when it comes down to having a conversation with people, I guess the term that I thought of was language versus intention is like anguish versus reflection, in the sense that the things that we say don't always mean what others think that they mean, obviously. And there are so many misunderstandings due to the fact that language is limited. Now, I don't have a huge grasp on the English language. I mean, there are so many more words that I could learn if I was saying intellectual, if you will. But I think I have a pretty good grasp on a variety of different terms that I can use, and even then I feel very limited. But I can't imagine being even more limited and having less terms. So often emotion is used to convey people use emotion to express themselves if they can't use language very well. And this perhaps may have some basis in why people who are violent tend to be people who are unable to express themselves properly in word can get violent because of that can lead to a person getting angry and frustrated. And the idea that we can overcome this and avoid anguish by being aware of what we're saying and doing and giving time to reflect is the most important thing. Say we're having a discussion with somebody about politics, and they say something that really bothers us, but we're not quite sure if that's true or not. We'll often argue with a fallacy just because we're frustrated. We'll make up anything we can to defend our point of view. And perhaps we do a little research and come back and say, well, we both learned from this, and that's what really matters. And I think that that's the root of what I'm trying to get at here, is that it's more important to learn than it is to be right. And I'm listening to an audiobook right now. I think the lady's name is, Carol Dwight. And the book is called Mindset, I think. I think that's what it's called. But it's about the two different types of mindset she writes about are fixed and growth mindsets. And I know so many people with the fixed mindset. And there are so many aspects to their personality that shows that people are this way. And they may have varying degrees of, each trait. But it's the kind of person who says, well, they get into a relationship. Like one of the chapters was about relationships. And she's saying how these are the people who get into a relationship and say, well, it's always going to be this way, and this is just the way it is. People are just this way, and they don't change. And a fixed mindset means that, well, I'll never get better at this particular thing at my job, or I'll never be understood, or I'll never be able to explain myself. And, the growth mindset is to say, because the fixed doesn't necessarily mean that it's an overbearing person. It can be a person who even is very timid and withdrawn, or it can be a very overbearing type frustrating person who always thinks that they're right. But the fixed mindset just means that this is the way it is, and that's the way it is. And life is growth. Life is chaos, and it's constantly transforming. So to think that anything is fixed is pretty ludicrous, but we get stuck in it because it's kind of a protective measure. It allows us to, to understand the world in a way that we can get on with our life and not have to do too much thinking about how to change our minds, because changing our minds takes a lot of effort. I guess an example of this, an extreme example, is organized religion, whereas people who, it's a fixed mindset about what God is, and to think that a person could hold the same view of God from the time that they're a child until they're an adult. But that's not always the case. It's sometimes people just join all of a sudden or have a realization which puts them into that. But it seems like it's a trap in the sense that once a person's taken a specific religion, it becomes a trap of the mind because it's fixed. In industry, if people weren't innovative, they would never move forward. So many companies have refused to change with the times, and they got left behind. And for example, it's well known that's what happened to Ford and a lot of companies. But not changing with the times is what allowed say Japanese automakers to take over. As I'm sitting in a Honda right now, considered my favorite car of all time. I love Hondas. They're always dependable. You don't hear about people saying, "Yeah, Hondas are shitty cars." All cars have their problems, but so many American-made cars, unfortunately, went downhill for a variety of reasons. But it was fixed mindsets that got people in business into trouble by not being able to move forward and become more innovative. You can be as stubborn as you want about the way things were in the old days, or this is how my pappy did it, or well, we've always had it that way and it's just always been this way. It's a horrible way to live. The only time we should consider the importance of the way it was is in tradition. And I used to think that tradition was another thing that had to go away, that these traditional, even religious ceremonies, they're all important. They're all, as long as you're doing something that moves you and that you can get together in a group, I think that's phenomenal. So there are a lot of great things about tradition, such as holidays. I used to be a little bit stubborn about holidays and saying, well, why should I celebrate someone else's holiday? Or I'm not religious, why should I celebrate Christmas? And then, thinking about it over the years, I realized that, well, everyone else already has these times off. They're already known holidays. Why do I have to make it about that? Why can't I make it about whatever I want? I can make Christmas about the solstice. Easter's coming, it'll be about the equinox, as it always is. Even if you don't agree with the celebration of the 4th of July, let's say you're anti-government, but people are still having a good time, are you going to not have a good time just because you have, you're stubborn in that way? So really it comes down to, I guess, doing what's right to keep you in a mindset that's happy, that's positive, that's productive, and always moving forward as best we can. And to try not to be misunderstood by educating ourselves as much as we can. So I'm out. I'm going to go back to doing some stuff. I'll talk to y'all later.